Well, good Thursday. Is it Thursday already? How in the world did that happen? Well, good Thursday, Chameleon Wranglers. Welcome to today's vlog. And I hope everybody is doing well. I have a silkworm cocoon, a moth that should be coming out. And so the thought was, should I be breeding silkworms and trying that out? And I guess the answer is yes, but I'm not going to do it with just one silk moth. So looks like I'm going to be trying to get some silkworm moths, and I want to do it at least once. So I'm going to raise silkworms at least once. We need to, where is it? We need to check the brevicorn eggs. Oh, give me a second. I moved the brevicorn eggs because it got too cold in this room. I'll be right back.
A few moments later.
All right, folks, we're back. Brevicorn eggs. Not much is going on, but this is a visual record of what the status is. And of course, there's one on top. So we'll keep checking. That's part of this vlog. The reason why it's so cold in here is because I have to leave the windows open because I am doing the silicon in that Custom Reptile Habitat's Arboreal L enclosure that we are building together. Now, today I wanted to put in the soil, but I still needed to do the waterproof test, which means I'm going to dump a bucket of water inside the enclosure and check to make sure that all of the silicon seams are waterproof and well done. And the silicon wasn't totally dry, and so I'm going to have the windows open for yet another night. Of course, today it's raining pretty intensely, and so the humidity's high, not good for drying silicon. C'est la vie. Anyway, that is why the eggs are in another room, because it just gets a little too cold in this room. But tomorrow that silicon should be dry, and I will do the water test, which means I pour in a bunch of water and make sure that it's not leaking out the edges. Now, with that on delay, that gives me the chance to talk about chameleon hydration. Earlier this week, I had Dr. Michael Nash on. He's right now in Ranamafana, Madagascar. Actually, right now, he's probably at the crocodile farm or at the airport. But back then, he was in Ranamafana, and we were talking about hydration. And by that, we mean the humidity that we experience in the chameleon's natural range. Now, obviously, there's all sorts of different kind of chameleons, all sorts of different species, and they're going to have different experiences as far as humidity throughout the year. But when we talk in generalities, during the wet season, the humidity is pretty high during the day. And it was across a wide swath of Madagascar that I was at. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that many of the chameleons that we work with could benefit from higher humidity during the day. Now, if you're embracing the husbandry that I have through the Chameleon Academy, then you're already having high humidity nights. But with each one of those care guides, most of them, during the day, the humidity, it says for the humidity to go down to 50%. There is a history behind that. That going down to 50% is not for the chameleon's sake. That is for our sake, because we're trying to set up an environment in a smaller enclosure. A 2 by 2 by 4 foot tall, that's a small enclosure. To be able to get the higher humidity, we need to cut down on the ventilation. And that can encourage fungus, mold, and such like that. Now, let's be honest about this. We still need to check those humidities and see how low do we really have to go. And since I was in Madagascar over a year ago, I have been experimenting with higher humidities during the day. The chameleons love it. They do very well with it. And if you're looking for a scientific measure, I really don't have a scientific measure. All I can say is they look healthy. Their poops are quite hydrated. And I would say they are doing very well. And that is with the high humidity. That thing that we were worried about, which is other things growing in the cage, that still is a concern. Although I'll say it's not as big of a concern, at least with me, as I thought it might. understand, I am in California that is often a dry environment. And so I don't have naturally occurring high humidity during the day, during the night, like some other areas would be, say, in the southeast United States. And so this is something that's going to be slow going as far as going to the care sheets and knowing enough about the humidity situation that I actually change a value on the care sheets. Saying 50% has served us well for quite a while. And I am careful not to change parameters unless I'm confident that a beginner who has no other context would be able to be successful using those numbers. And so the experimentation continues. What does it take to offer between 80, 90% humidity during the day and between 90 and 100% humidity at night? I am absolutely not worried about how the Chameleon's going to take that. They are going to do great. It's will our cage remain hygienic under those conditions, and how do we help it remain hygienic under those conditions? I don't have an answer for that right now. I'm experimenting with that, and I invite you to experiment with it, realizing we don't know. Your Chameleon's going to be fine with the humidity. But if you start seeing black mold and you start seeing other things that are undesirable starting to grow in the enclosure, then you know, okay, this is why we're experimenting with it. This is what we got to figure out. And I can't put something on the care sheet just because it works for me in my environment. It goes on the care guides when I figure out how it can be the most universal number possible. So if you do start experimenting with higher humidities during the day, please let me know. I'd like to know what you're doing. I'd like to know your results. I mean, we are all working on this together. And that's one reason why I was excited to talk to Michael, so I could get another perspective of he experienced the same area that I experienced. And so I wanted to talk with him. And he came back with the same experiences I did. Okay, there's humidity all over the place, and everything is wet. So how do we replicate that in captivity? Next January, I'm going to be in Madagascar with more chameleon keepers, and we are going to all talk about, okay, what is it we're feeling? How do you think we can recreate this, doing it in a hygienic way that really can give our chameleons the top hydration protocol that we can come up with? In addition to thinking about hydration, I'd also like you to sit back and observe this process. What we're going through now with hydration, this is an integral part of us moving forward as a community, to where we take an issue, a parameter. Even if we think we've pretty much got it down, we see how we can make it better, and we experiment with it. The one thing that we don't want to do is decide after going to Madagascar, oh, we should be keeping chameleons in 80 to 90% during the day. Okay, but what about execution? And so we can't just go to the general community and say, now you should be keeping your chameleons at 80 to 90%. We have to take into account how that's going to be executed, because we don't want anything that we say, anything that we change, being used incorrectly to where it harms a chameleon. And so we need to move slow. And this is a perfect thing for you to watch and say, this is how things change. You're at the grassroots. You're seeing that we identify something that needs to change. And now we're working on how do we change that in a way that works for the most people possible? And then how do we explain it so the most people possible will understand it instead of simply just repeating what we say and hoping for the best. And this is the kind of thing that you can be part of anytime you want. So today's vlog is all about seeing an issue, trying out a solution, experimenting with different ways to make it happen, and collaborating with other people in the community to figure out a conclusion and a change to the parameter if necessary that can work for the most people possible. Thank you very much for hanging out with my Thursday thoughts. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 a.m. And then on Saturday, in addition to the vlog, we have the Chameleons and Coffee live session at 12 noon Pacific on YouTube. Bring your questions, your comments, and your friends who have questions or comments. And we can just hang out, shoot the breeze like we always do. And so, go on and have a great Thursday. Take care of yourself, be excellent to each other, and I'll see you next time.